Welcome to Live Vedanta, a podcast about simple living and high thinking. If you're joining Live Vedanta for the first time, we have a whole archive of inspirational episodes to jumpstart your January and your 2024. If you want to catch up specifically on this season where we're covering the 100 words at the core of Hinduism, you can click the link in our show notes that takes you to episode 1. So we often wish we were able to live in the present more, that our minds were less rattled by all that's happening. So how exactly can we train our inner world to be more at peace with our outer world? What patterns are we subconsciously repeating that we need to recognize and get out of? Let's tune into Vivekji for the answers to these all-important questions.
Hari Om, and greetings from Niagara Falls. By show of hands, how many of you have never seen or heard of the Moksha Pata before, prior to this course? A lot of you. The word moksha means freedom. What this feels like is to be free in virtues. Whenever you're living by a virtue, like endurance, imagine you're with someone who's bugging you and you endure. Are you not free then? Another way to look at moksha, it is to be free of vices. When everyone else is frustrated, you are not. Isn't that freedom? In our Niti Shastra, which is the science of leadership, I'm most appreciative of all of you. You're punctual. You're listening attentively. Do write this down, especially. In our leadership science, there is a gauge to find out how free you are. I'll say it in Sanskrit and then naturally in English. Uttama kshanika, which means for the best seeker, when they're experiencing a vice, they only do so for 1 second. And then what do? They free themselves of that vice. Madhyama gatika dvayam. For a average seeker, a vice lasts 2 gatikas. A gatika is 24 minutes, so 2 of them, 48 minutes. For the sake of simplicity, 1 hour. So if I've given into anger and I'm an average seeker, how long will that anger last? 1 hour. So the best seeker, an average seeker, a poor seeker, adhama ratra. For a poor seeker, that vice lasts 1 night, but it happened during the day. So the idea is a full day. So 1 second, 1 hour, 1 day. And the worst seeker, papi marana. For the worst seeker, how long does that vice last? Their whole life, until they die. That if someone has been mean to them, they do not forgive them until that person dies. Based on this science of leadership, what kind of seeker are you? The best, the average, the poor? You're not the worst. Feel free to share if you wish. But how awesome are our rishis that they're able to share these frameworks in such a poetic way. A second, an hour, a day, a lifetime. This course is designed for us to evolve in the type of seeker we are. We are using the moksha pata not for jaya. Jaya means to win. It is for vijaya, which means to be victorious. Winning is external. Being victorious is internal. In our past class, we reviewed the design of the moksha pata, and then we continued with headspace 41, which is bhagya. In English, fortunate. What does it mean to be fortunate? It is one who lives by virtues. What is the utility of that? Their minds are quieter. For those who are disciplined, their minds are quieter than those who are not disciplined. And the quieter your mind, the more you come to know your nature is peace. Here's another way to reflect on bhagya. Imagine all of us were to die tonight. But before 11:59 p.m. hits, we get to make 3 wishes of what we would want in our next lifetime. All of us are going to be enlightened in this lifetime. Yes? The last headspace is moksha. It's already designed like that. But suppose we were not going to be enlightened. Tell me, what would be 3 wishes you would have for your next lifetime? Share in the chat. A quiet mind, to be more reflective, a guru, disciplined. You already know what bhagya is, correct? None of you wrote to be an American. None of you wrote to have this square footage of home or to have this degree. That's not bhagya. Bhagya is everything that you're writing right now. But what are you investing in? Are you investing in a fortune or being fortunate? Very quickly, I was introducing what the word Bhagavan means. Van means to have. And Bhaga, it is 6 directions of bhagya or virtues. These are the 6 directions. Number 1, Aishwarya, which is to be joyous. Number 2, Dharma, which is to be responsible. Number 3, Yasha, which means to be revered. Number 4, Shriya, which means to be prosperous. Number 5, Vairagya, which means to be independent. And number 6, Jnana, which is to be wise. Who is Bhagavan? The one who is joyous, responsible, revered, prosperous, independent, and wise in all ways. We also have these 6 virtues, but not in all ways. And if we keep investing in converting values to virtues, who do you think you're going to become? You're going to re-become Bhagavan. You are going to rediscover you are God. What an amazing message and fate that all of us are going to experience. And the 42nd headspace, Deha, which means body. Our spirit is as if covered by 6 equipments. These are what the equipments do. I'm sharing this so you know the role of the body. The first covering is the ego, which identifies. The next covering is the intellect, which instructs. The third covering is the mind, which interprets. The fourth covering is the breath, which inputs. The fifth covering is the body. What does the body do? Interact. And so we're clear about that. I'm going to my last screen. There's a lot of people in class today, which is awesome. If you don't have your camera on, can you interact with others? But with your camera on, you can interact with others, correct? Your camera being on is like you having a body. The sixth covering is lifestyle, which ignores. Our lifestyles tend to be extrovert, which means we're ignoring how to be happy. So putting this into context, what does the body do? It interacts. It is simply an equipment. It's a personal equipment. We use social media to interact, correct? But it's not personal. This is a personal equipment. So what should you do with it? Treat it like an equipment. And what I find helps me a lot to treat this body as an equipment is to feel that it belongs to someone else. To feel that it belongs to someone else. When I go to pick up our kids in the afternoon, I try to park as far away as possible. Because when I park, both doors have to open because our kids still sit in car seats. Now, when a car parks close to us, I'm not concerned about our car getting scratched. Our car has lots of scratches. Our kids feel that the scraper part of a snow brush is to be used on the paint, not on the windows. They're that creative. But if another person's car gets scratched, that's what I'm concerned about. So now just apply that to your body. This is another person's body. Take care of it. But you don't have to invest in it so much because it doesn't belong to you. We continue. The next 3 words we're going to study, I've actually already introduced to you. The next 3 words are more technical. So that's why I've invested more in a review. Headspace 43 is prana. Prana. In English, input. I've just enlisted this as the 4th of the coverings. This is the sheath that is known, and what it does is engages in our physiological functions, like inputting, digesting, circulating, etc. Explaining this more philosophically, if there's an input, there is also going to be an output. And that's why what's become very popular in our society is pranayama. Yes, how many of you practice this? Pranayama? Pranayama is a discipline of that which is being inputted and that which is being outputted. Shifting to that which is practical, our physiological functions, our breath specifically, is functional. It is functional. And so what we should do is try to make this covering as efficient as possible. Those who are healthier, they're able to process more oxygen, correct? Those who are healthier don't need to use Metamucil, correct? Those who are healthier, their extremities don't get as cold, correct? So how do I use this word? Exercise. If you exercise, this covering will become more efficient. And if this covering's efficient, you don't have to invest in it as much, correct? So you can live more deeply. I often think to myself, why did my parents move to a part of the world where there's ice on the ground for 6 months of the year? What were they thinking? Living where there's ice on the ground is highly inefficient. It's not good for cars. It's not good for your balance. It's not good for your mood. But if you imagine springtime or fall time when it's not too hot, it's a very efficient time, correct? You don't have to wear as much clothing. You don't have to go with a water bottle. Try to visualize your prana the same way. If you're still unsure about how to practice this, observe your breathing more. I'm not saying you should control your breath. Watch your breath. That is a way to make prana more efficient. Headspace 44, he's the head. It is manah or mind. Manah or mind. Please try to visualize this. Imagine this is our spirit. This is first covered by the ego, then covered by the intellect, then covered by the mind, then covered by the breath. See how we've gone from body to breath. What's next in line? Mind. What's going to be next in line? Intellect. The primary function of the mind is to interpret. Interpret. Whatever the breath inputs, so the breath, it's coming in, and whatever the intellect instructs, that's coming out, the mind interprets that. So that's the primary function. Sharing this in a different visualization. I had shared this in Meaningful Mornings right at the beginning when we started, almost 2 years ago. The body is a worker. The mind is the manager, and the intellect is the supervisor. If you think of your day-to-day affairs, what is managing your day-to-day affairs? Your mind. If you're in a good mood, that's a good day. If you're in a bad mood, that's a bad day. For all of you who have a manager, isn't your professional life the same way? If your manager is in a good mood, that's a good day. If your manager is in a bad mood, it's a bad day. Yes. For those who don't work in such professional settings, it's your family, correct? The more impure our mind is, the more confused we are. Impurity and confusion are directly related. Purity and clarity are directly related. As an example, in the movie Kung Fu Panda 2, how many of you have seen this? Those who haven't, what are you doing with your life? There's a scene where Po gets blown away by a cannonball. And his, I guess, guru, the soothsayer, is trying to help him find himself. And he's looking into this water. And he can't see his reflection. So the soothsayer calms that water down. And then Po is able to see his reflection and see who he is. The mind is the same way. As long as the mind is rattled, we will never know our nature is peace. When the mind is quietened, we will come to know our nature is peace. Most practically, what are we to do with this mind that is ever interpreting, and so it's confused? The way to purify this for the sake of clarity is japa. Japa means meaningful repetition. I want you to try to visualize your important devices. They're always plugged in, correct? When you travel, suppose I invited all of you to Niagara Falls, and I am inviting you. Not suppose, I am inviting you to Niagara Falls. I may not be here, but when you travel, you're going to bring your laptop charger, correct? You're going to bring your phone charger. If you're traveling with an electric car, you're going to look for a charger there. Our minds should be ever plugged in to japa. And you should only pull that mind out when you have an active use for it. And when you're done actively using it, what should you do? Plug it back in. Everyone sees that visualization. Right now, I'm not engaged in japa because I'm pretending to be actively engaged in sharing our movement up the moksha pata. But as soon as we complete our class, this mind is going to get plugged back in. Om Namo Narayanaya. Om Namo Narayanaya. Sometimes in a gentle way, sometimes in an angry way. Like so many times when I'm reading to our children, they'll take their heads and they'll hit my glasses. Like they're just so excited. So then it'll be a Om Namo Narayanaya. But it's still plugged in. Okay? And completing Headspace 45. Buddhi. Buddhi in English means intellect. Body, breath, mind, intellect. Deha, prana, manah, buddhi. How many of you are part of Meaningful Mornings? By show of hands. Okay. In the visualization, oh, perfect. I have chapter 5 right here. Can you all see this? What is the chariot? In reference to your life, what is the chariot? Body, good. Who is Prince Arjuna? Us is a good answer, but mind is the more technical answer. And who is Sri Krishna? The intellect. In chapter 1, who's teaching who? The mind is teaching the intellect, correct? But the Bhagavad Gita proper begins in chapter 2, where the intellect is teaching the mind. Sanatana Dharma is amazing in its teaching methodology. There's audio learning, there's visual learning. The intellect is that which decides. The mind doubts. The earlier word I used was confusion. The intellect decides. And if you remember what I shared last week, what makes being born as a human unique and powerful is you have an intellect that can decide what the source of happiness is. Stones, plants, animals, and semi-gods do not have such an intellect. And when your intellect decides you are the only source of your happiness, then what will you be called? Buddha. Bhagwan Buddha is the one who used his buddhi for why we have a buddhi. Sharing another way to think about this, the extrovert intellect instructs. And please listen to me carefully about this. I was born and raised and live in Niagara Falls. Most of my schooling happened around here. I studied in the Czech Republic for some time. I studied in India for a period of time. The way I would describe my education is intellectual. Would you describe your education as that too? We are all intellectuals. And the intellect that is not trained, what does it naturally do? Instructs. Is always planning, has a to-do list, is trying to be over-efficient. These are all gauges of an untrained intellect. So how do you train the intellect? By offering this intellect an ideal. When the intellect is offered an ideal, that same powerful equipment, instead of instructing, what does it start to do? Inquires. Am I happy? Am I living for happiness? I want to read to all of you a reflection from a seeker in our community. She's here right now. This is in reference to, I had asked all of you to flip a coin whenever you're making light decisions. And this is what a seeker wrote based on her practice. Daily, I spend significant effort and time on light decisions for the sake of efficiency or optimization or wanting to be intentional. For example, whether to take out the trash now or right before leaving for work when I will be in winter clothes. The decision-making process is more cumbersome than the actual work. Today, I got my chores done more efficiently and had time freed up for reflection. Overall, the mind felt relaxed instead of the back and forth, inefficient, overthinking, driven decision-making on the mundane. The decision-making and the action both became more efficient and intentional. How many of you can relate to this? Where we work so hard to be efficient that we become inefficient. I catch myself like this all the time. And I'm glad I'm able to shake that out after Gati ka dwaya. Not in a second, but in an hour. It is that ideal that helps one to understand what efficiency is. Most practically, how do we train our intellect to have an ideal so that it inquires, live by integrity. If you have thought it, say it. If you have said it, do it. This will help one be less doubtful and more decisive. How many of you wish you were more decisive in your life? Here's how. And I have shared this in so many different ways, but particularly in Meaningful Mornings, I shared about satya, which means non-compromising. Non-compromising means living by integrity. We have one more sheath to go. That is the ahankara. We'll continue with this and more in our next class.
If you enjoyed what you heard or want to learn more, share this episode with a friend or find us online at facebook.com/cmniagara. For those on the journey of self-development, Chinmaya Mission Niagara provides a community forum for seekers to listen, reflect, and contemplate. This podcast is produced by the Young Adults of Chinmaya Mission, an international nonprofit working to transform individuals through the knowledge of Vedanta. Until next time, inspire, love, be.